quite surprised to see me streaming at this early in the day. But we are going to have a special stream today, and I am going to be building a Pathfinder character. I'm going to be making a human ranger with a focus on archery. So on the left tab, you see over there, you'll see my character sheet, which I will call up right about now. So this is a character sheet. There's a bunch of tabs that we are going to have to go through, and we will definitely make our way through all of them. And then on the right tab, on this window, we have a bunch of references that we're going to be using in order to build this character. So without further ado, we are going to make a human ranger, and the first thing that you want to do is assign ability scores. So I usually use point buy. 20 point buy is almost always the standard when it comes to this sort of thing. So to understand what point buy is, we need to go to this table over here, and I'm not sure if you can see it. Yes, you can. We need to go to this table, and it'll show you. So every score, you start with 10. Start with a score of 10, which is a modifier of 0, and you can increase that score by spending points. So from 8 to 13, it's a 1-to-1, right? If you want an 11, you need to spend 1 point, 12, 2 points, 13, 3 points. And if you want to go down, you can go down to negative. You can get a point back, essentially, by dropping stat to 9, 2 points back by dropping it to 8, and then this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You get 4 points for dropping something to 7, and then you need 5 points to get something to 14. So this is where it breaks from a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's not too difficult to understand, and there is a handy dandy calculator that Jody White so graciously provides for free. And we're going to be using this calculator in order to determine our ability scores. So the first thing we want to do is choose our race, and our race here is human. Right, so humans are very flexible. So if you want to go to human Pathfinder real quick, they're very simple to understand. They're very flexible, but they're generalists. They're the generalist race. They are the generalist race. So there's begin, play, speak, and common. But the more important thing that we need to worry about here is ability score modifiers. Humans gain a +2 racial bonus to any score of their choice, and that is applied after the point buy. So you want to assign your points first, and then you add in your racial modifier afterwards. So this is a ranger focused on archery. Your most important score is obviously dexterity, as it affects your to hit with your bow, and all ranged attack weapons are based off of dexterity. However, you do not add your dexterity modifier to damage. In other systems such as 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons you do, but in this there is no way to add dexterity to damage rolls with a longbow. I was going to say there's no way to add dexterity to damage with any bow, but the bolt ace gunslinger is able to do so with crossbows, and we'll be getting into that in a later segment. But for now, we're going to assign the rest of our stats. The ability scores, I'm not going to go over each and every one of them. You can go look them up. But strength, how hard you hit; dexterity, agility, constitution, health, intelligence, how smart you are; wisdom, senses; and then charisma, how well you speak. More or less charisma, how much people like you. But because you're a ranger, you're a loner, so let's put that to 8 real quick. This is not an optimization. This is basically a first character, so I'm not going to go all out with min-maxing the ability scores. I'm just going to give you a general sense of how you might want to structure it. Rangers are casters in this game. There are quite a few archetypes that trade off casting, but we're going to not deal with any archetypes this time, so I'm going to put wisdom at 14. It also affects skills such as perception, which is a ranger's primary skill, in addition to usually stealth and knowledge nature, knowledge dungeoneering, and survival, of course. Wisdom affects perception and survival, which are two of the ranger's most important skills. So we have 7 points left. Constitution is always important. I'm going to put that up to 12 real quick. And then finally, we have 5 points left. I'm going to put it into strength. I'm putting these points into strength because it's going to affect your damage with bows when you eventually get a composite bow. And intelligence isn't too important on a ranger, simply because they already get 6 skill ranks per level, and they don't cast off of intelligence. So it's not too important. It does affect how well you are with knowledge skills such as dungeoneering and nature. Those are the 2 important ones. Geography, not so as much. It also affects craft, but usually you don't have a lot of time to craft in these types of scenarios, but we'll get into that later. So now that we've assigned our points from the point buy, we can add our racial modifier, and we're going to throw that into dexterity there. If you take a notice, I went with all even numbers. The way Pathfinder works is that feat prerequisites are always based off odd numbers, but your ability score modifier is based off an even number. So the modifier here, you can see the modifiers here, is 2, 4, 1, 0, 2, -1. And the plus, so basically, if I have a +4 to dexterity, all abilities that are based on dexterity, I have a +4 to. So for acrobatics, I have a +4 to. For ranged attack rolls, I have a +4 to, and there's going to be additional modifiers to that as well. But this is just to get a general sense. So going on the left side of the screen, on our character sheet here, I'm going to change my base stats to the stats that I had just assigned. So 14, 18, 12, 10, I'm not going to change that, 14, and then 8. All right. And now we can add race, human, because we're boring. Subtype, there is none. Alignment, I want to say true neutral here. I like true neutral characters a lot. Gender, I'm male, so I'm going to say male. Default size is medium. Quadruped, I'm not a quadruped. Age, I'll say 24. Height, 5'7". Weight, 125. Eyes, brown. Hair, black. Skin, fair. Deity, Gazre. Homeland, New Jersey. Occupation, student. Vision details, none. Languages, common. If you have a high intelligence score, you also gain bonus languages. They're either from a set list, or you can just pick any language depending on your race. As it says in the human page, they begin play speaking common. And if you have a high intelligence score, for every point of your intelligence modifier, you gain a bonus language. So let's go to the racial abilities. So this is going to be under traits. And this is going to be racial traits. So humans get 2 racial traits. The first one is skill. And it's +1 skill rank at every level. So basically, whenever you level up, you get an extra skill point, in addition to the ones you normally get from your class and intelligence. The second one is a bonus feat. And this is why people pick human a lot. At first level, gain a bonus feat I qualify for. So at first level, you get an extra feat, and based on the build, this could either be really helpful or marginally helpful, but feats are, generally speaking, a rare commodity, and the more feats you have, the better. So feats available from racial should be 1, so I'm going to have 1 total feat, but when I put in my class name, Ranger, level it up to 1, I will have an extra feat. So I would have 2 total feats at level 1. If we want to go to our character advancement, based on this table here, at first level, you gain your first feat, and then at 3rd level, and then every 2 levels thereafter, you get another feat. So you gain 10 feats over the course of your character's levels 1 through 20, in addition to any possible feats that you might gain through your class or through the campaign. Maybe the GM wants to give you an extra feat, for instance. Going back here now, we're going to, so before we choose our feats, right, we're going to put in our class, right? So our class is a ranger. Alignment, there's no alignment restriction on a ranger. The hit die is D10. So every time you level up, you will be rolling a D10. And it's basically a 10-sided die from 1 through 10. At first level, you always get your maximum hit die, so you start off with 10. And let's see what the ranger gets. It gets a bunch of class skills that we're going to go into very shortly, but let's take a look at this table right here. At level 1st, we have a base attack bonus of +1, so I'm going to put a +1 there. We have fortitude save of 2 and a reflex save of 2. This is base in addition to our constitution score. Reflex is based off dexterity, and will is based off of wisdom. Because we don't have a very good will save, I put in a couple of extra points into wisdom to make sure that our will save isn't completely bad. And we also have to choose a favorite class. Because this is going to be taking 20 levels in Ranger, our favorite class is going to be Ranger. So whenever you take a level in your favorite class, you can choose a bonus hit point, a bonus skill rank, or an alternative racial bonus. But for the intents and purposes of this, I'm going to only choose between HP and skill rank, and I'm going to play it safe and put it into HP because my constitution is only 12. Skills per level, as I went over, is 6. And let's get into the class skills right here. So Rangers have a bunch of class skills. So starting off, they have Climb, Craft, Handle Animal, Heal, Intimidate, Knowledge Dungeoneering, Knowledge Geography, Knowledge Nature, Perception, Profession, Ride, Spellcraft, Stealth, Survival, and Swim. Because we're human, we gain our level 2 skill ranks. We get an extra skill rank per level. Extra skill rank per level, so we have 7 skill ranks to play with. The most important one here is going to be Perception. You always want to make sure you have max ranks in Perception if you have that as a class skill. A class skill, so the Ranger has a certain number of class skills, right? The first time you put a skill point into one of your class skills, you get an additional +3. So if you take a look here, my Perception bonus is +2, but when I put a rank in, it becomes +6. So +2 from Wisdom, +1 from the skill rank, and then +3 from the class skill. However, you can put ranks into abilities or into skills that aren't class skills, right? So I could put a point into Sleight of Hand here, and because it's not a class skill, it just goes up by 1. So it started off as a 4 initially, and now it's a 5 because I put 1 rank in there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and fill out the rest of the list. I'm going to put 1 in Handle Animal. I'm going to put 1 in Dungeoneering, 1 in Nature, 1 in Spellcraft, 1 in Stealth, and I believe I have 1 point left. I do not, so I'm going to take the 1 out of Sleight of Hand because I was just using that as a reference. And I'm going to put it into Survival because I think tracking is going to be important. And as a Ranger, you are responsible for tracking. And speaking of which, let's go into the special abilities of the Ranger. So let's go into abilities and let's go over to class features. The first one that we get is our first favored enemy. So at first level, a Ranger selects a creature type from the Ranger favored enemies table. He gains a +2 on Bluff, Knowledge, Perception, Sense Motive, and Survival checks against creatures of his selected type. In addition to that, he gets a +2 bonus, and here's the breadwinner, +2 bonus on attack rolls and damage rolls against them. And in addition to that, a Ranger may make knowledge skill checks untrained when attempting to identify these creatures. So normally, in order to roll a knowledge skill, you need to have at least 1 rank in it. So if the GM told me to roll Knowledge Arcana, I matter-of-factly could not, simply because I do not have any ranks in Arcana. In addition to that, so at 5th level, every 5 levels thereafter, the Ranger may select an additional favored enemy. In addition, at each such interval, the bonus against one favored enemy, including the one just selected, if so desired, increases by 2. So at first level, if I chose orcs, let's say humanoid orc, right, as my favorite enemy, I would have a +2 bonus for the associated skill checks, damage rolls, and attack rolls against orcs. And then at 5th level, I can pick another one. So let's pick dragons, right? And I want to increase the bonus of dragons by 2. So I would have a +2 bonus against orcs for all associated skills, attack rolls, damage rolls. And then against dragons, I would have the same thing, except it's at a +4. Just to let you know, if you're confused as to what you should choose as a favorite enemy, ask the GM. A good GM will give you hints as to what to face. So for instance, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to play a Ranger, what are some good favorite enemies that you think might come up in the campaign. He would say, oh, well, the town that you're starting in is comprised 70% of humans, so that might be of interest. In addition, there's a goblin infestation, and you're more than likely going to be dealing with that to at least some degree early on, so maybe humanoid goblin might not be a bad choice. A bad GM will say something vague and ambiguous, like, you should be prepared for anything, or something along those lines. But a GM will want to see your characters succeed. A good GM will want to see your characters succeed, and if you have a good GM, you should ask them what good favorite enemies would be. So class features, favorite enemy, I know how to spell, and then I'm just gonna copy and paste this in the description. Boom. And then our second ability here is track. So what tracking does, a ranger can add 1/2 of his level, minimum 1, to survival checks made to follow or identify tracks, which is pretty neat. It's pretty neat. So going back to skills, we have survival here. I'm going to put in the miscellaneous notes here that it's going to be plus 1/2 level, minimum 1, to follow tracks. And I'm actually going to roll survival now. I'm going to roll survival just to show you what it's going to look like. So I'm going to roll survival, and I rolled a 20. So I rolled a 14, and then I added my survival modifier to that, which is a plus 6. And so my check for this was a 20. In addition to that, if I was following tracks, I would add a plus 1 to that bonus, or to that score, I should say. And then finally, we have wild empathy, and that is our third first level class feature. So a ranger can improve the initial attitude of an animal. This ability functions like a diplomacy check to improve the attitude of a person. So you roll 1d20 and add your ranger level and charisma bonus to determine the wild empathy check result. So basically, if you see a wild animal, or even a domesticated animal, you can improve their attitude, maybe get them to do a trick for you, but it's going to be very difficult because you're going to be making wild empathy checks as an addition to handle animal checks. But you can get them to like improve their mood and not be outwards hostile to you, so they might not want to kill you. You can also use this on magical beasts, but you suffer a -4 penalty if they are not officially sentient. Well, not sentient, but if they're not intelligent. So an intelligence score of 1 or 2 basically means that you're more or less off of instinct. When you're able to fully think on your own, that's an intelligence score of 3. And all animals in this game have an intelligence score of 1 or 2. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this description in here. And actually what I'm going to do now is go back to skills, because it's not a skill, but it's basically a skill. So I'm going to say wild empathy right here. This is going to be our miscellaneous skill, and it's going to be based off charisma. You can't put ranks into it, and it's not a class skill, but I'm going to put in a command right here. It's going to be @level. You can see that right here. And it's basically going to add my level bonus to the check, which is pretty nice. So I can go ahead and roll wild empathy now, and I would have rolled a 12. I'm not sure if this would have been successful or not, but basically, if I wanted to improve the attitude of an animal, I certainly could. This is a pretty situational ability. It doesn't come into play very often, but maybe in a more wilderness-based campaign, it very well could. So we aren't done with our first level yet. We have our HP. So we have our HP. You always add your Constitution modifier to HP, and your class HP is always max hit die at first. So I put my favorite class bonus into HP, so it's 10 plus 1, and then you always add your Constitution modifier by your level to see how much bonus HP you get from Con. So we have a total of 12 HP, which is decent for first level. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad. So what we still need to do for first level here is choose our feats. And because we are a first level character, we get our first feat. And because we are human, we get an extra feat. And I did say that this is going to be an archery focused character. The first feat that you always want to choose the first feat that you always want to choose for an archer is going to be point blank shot, because it's a prerequisite for basically every other archery feat in the game. And what it does is you get a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls for targets within 30 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the compendium, type in point blank shot, here it is, and I'm just going to click and drag it over into the little feat section right here, and it fills in everything for me, which is really, really nice. So unfortunately, we are going to need to set a buff for it, so I'm going to click add, or that's not how it's done. You're going to click this button here to add a buff, and I'm going to label it point blank shot, and I'm going to add the note to attack rolls because that's where it comes into play. So there's two buffs right here. Select one, it's going to be ranged attack and then range damage, and it's just a +1/+1. And whenever you're within 30 feet, you would click this little button here to enable it. Otherwise, you won't. So I'm going to get into that maybe today, maybe in a different video. But anyways, first feat is point blank shot. Our second feat is going to be precise shot. Precise shot is super important for rangers, for any kind of archer, really, because the thing about precise shot, if I could find it, is that there's no penalty for shooting into melee. So normally, if you're using a ranged weapon and you're firing at an enemy who's engaged in melee combat with someone else, probably an ally, or even just like a third enemy group or what have you, you're going to be taking a -4 penalty to your attack roll. But with precise shot, you remove that penalty completely, which is really nice. So those are 2 feats at level 1. What we need to go over now is equipment. So how are we going to be an archer, right? We have all of these abilities, but we don't have a weapon. So we start off with a certain amount of gold, and we're going to be spending this gold to better gear ourselves. So I'm not going to be spending gold at each level. I'm just going to give this character some stuff at first level, and then when I level up, then I level up. But it's for intents and purposes and keeping this fairly concise, I am going to just stay with first level gear throughout the course of your campaign. You're going to be better equipped, and you're going to find more magical stuff to work with. But for now, we're just going to take the average starting wealth. It's going to be 175 gold pieces. Remember that gold has weight, and 50 coins is equivalent to 1 pound. So currently I have 3.5 pounds of weight. My light load is 58 pounds. I cannot imagine us going over that, but we shall see. So we are an archer. The first thing I'd imagine us buying is a bow, but what kind of bow can we use? So let's go to weapon and armor proficiency. A ranger is proficient with all simple and all martial weapons, in addition to light armor, medium armor, and shields, with the exclusion of tower shields. So we can basically choose any weapon that's a simple weapon or a martial weapon, and then use that. So for simple ranged weapons, we have a blowgun, heavy crossbow, light crossbow, darts, javelin, slings, whatever. I don't care about any of that crap. I'm going to go straight to the martial weapons, and I'm going to go to the martial ranged weapons. So you see here that there's the longbow. In addition to that, there's the composite longbow +1. So a longbow, you don't add your strength modifier to damage, but for a composite bow, you can add up to this number. So if I had a composite longbow +2, the +2 would allow me to add up to 2 points of strength to my damage roll. But for intents and purposes, we're just going to get a longbow. So I'm under equipment. I'm going to click this little plus, and it's going to give me a little item slot, and I'm going to type in longbow. I'm going to drag that in here, and it just fills out everything for you, and I'm going to create an attack. So under attacks, I have this longbow attack now, and I can just go ahead, click and roll it, and I rolled a 21 to hit for 4 piercing damage. All right. If I had point blank shot on, I'm going to go ahead and do that. If I was within 30 feet of my target, I actually rolled the same thing, right? I rolled another 16, right, for 5 damage. And that's the buff that would be given from that. There's also a range on each weapon that can be thrown or fired, and the range of a longbow is 100 feet. So if you are outside of that range, if you're shooting at someone like 120 feet, you'd be taking a -2 penalty. If you're shooting at like 220 feet, then you'd be taking a -4 penalty. So every time you fire outside of your range increment, you take a -2. But remember, you can't use a longbow if someone's engaging you in melee combat, because then you'd be taking something called an attack of opportunity. So I think it's important that we also get a melee weapon. So this did cost us 75 gold, so I'm going to subtract 75 out of here. Now we have 100. But before we go buy melee weapon, we do need something to fire. We need something to fire, right? We need arrows. So under ammo, I'm going to add in arrows. I think arrows common. Yeah, arrows. So it's so every set of arrows is it costs 1 gold and it weighs 3 pounds. And so every 20 arrows costs that. So I'm just going to assume that this is, so you say arrows, common, and then 20, just to let it know that we have 20 arrows now. So that'll be good for 20 shots. If you miss with an arrow, there's a 50% chance you can pick it up, but generally speaking, arrows are so common that after like the first session, you should never ever worry about running out of arrows. So after that, let's go get ourselves a melee weapon. So let's go get a longsword. So that cost us, what, 1 gold? So we're down to 99 gold. So let's get ourselves a longsword here. So I can just go ahead and click, and once again, click and drag from the compendium, and then create an attack. It weighs 4 pounds, and it has a value of 15. So it has a value of 15. I'm going to subtract 15 from there. Make sure you keep track of your gold. That is something for you to do. And then I can just go ahead and roll this. So I'm going to keep the point blank shot on, but it's not going to affect this. It did not affect the longsword, but the buff still stays there because I had it enabled. So don't worry about that. I'm going to take this point blank shot off. I'm going to roll it again, and I rolled an 8 for 3 damage, which is minimal, but I mean that's how it goes. This is a game largely based on the luck of the dice, and what you're trying to do here is trying to optimize, or not necessarily optimize, but give yourself the best chance of striking a target. Sorry, my lips are chapped. So going forward from here, we have our attacks. Now we need defenses, and let's pick up some armor. Let's pick up some armor. We're going to go light armor because we're focused on dexterity. So let's take a look at the armor tab, and there's a bunch of light armor, medium armor, heavy armor. Remember that the ranger is proficient with both light armor and medium armor, but because there's a maximum dexterity bonus associated with armors, and I have a +4, I generally speaking would want a lighter armor to not impede my movement as well. So I'm going to get something like studded leather real quick, and I can go in here and just type in studded leather. And then bada bing, bada boom, it comes in here. You can set the armor, and then under the defenses tab here, you can actually see your armor class. So in order for an enemy to hit you, they need to roll this number or higher. So my current armor class, or AC, is 17. I get a +3 bonus from my armor, and then a +4 bonus from my dexterity modifier. Just to let it be known, if I was carrying heavier armor, such as scale mail, if I bought scale mail, I'd have a +5 bonus for my armor, but because my maximum dexterity bonus is only +3, I'd only be getting a +3 from that. There's also my touch AC, which is based off of 10 plus your dexterity modifier, and then other possibly associated bonuses such as dodge and deflection bonuses. In addition, this is your flat-footed AC. If you haven't yet acted in combat, you are flat-footed, so you'd only get 10 plus any armor bonus or natural armor. So other than that, we do need some other gear. We can't just have weapon armor. What about when we're not in combat? So we're going to need a ranger's kit. And a ranger's kit, unfortunately, that's not how you spell ranger. A ranger's kit is unfortunately not included in the compendium, so I'm going to go over to equipment locks, kits, tools and kits page, and I'm going to search ranger. So ranger's kit costs 9 gold, weighs 28 pounds, so say quantity 1, weight 28, value is 9, so it costs 9 gold, so I'm going to be subtracting that. So I'm down to 75. So currently I am encumbered because I have 59.5 weight, and my total weight's only 58. So this includes a backpack, bedroll, a belt pouch, flint and steel, iron pot, mess kit, rope, torches, 10 of them, trail rations, and a water skin. So that's perfect. I'll just shove that in here and call it a day. If you are encumbered, you your maximum dexterity bonus to AC is +3. So there's a little outline over here saying that I'm encumbered, so I can only get a +3 to my dexterity bonus. And then likewise, it suffers from my touch and combat maneuver defense, which is something we may or may not get into here. And it also affects your skills. So the acrobatics normally be a +4 from dexterity, but because I am encumbered, I'm suffering from medium encumbrance, I take a -3 penalty to all strength and dexterity based skill checks. However, that does not stack with an armor penalty. So the armor usually imposes some sort of armor check penalty to strength and dexterity based rolls. Studded leather is a -1, but it's not cumulative with encumbrance. So basically you just take the worst of the two when comparing them. I'm actually not sure how I'm so encumbered. I figured I'd be okay, but I guess not. This should be gear. So we do have a bit more gold to spend. Oh, why does it say 125? Let's go to all real quick, sorry. I think something's not adding up. Longbow 75, the arrows 1, so that's 76, 91. Oh, I don't think I subtracted out the studded leather. Right, so that's an extra 25 gold that we need to spend. So now we're down to 50 gold. We're still 1 pound overweight here, so I'm going to convert the gold to platinum. So 10 gold is worth 1 platinum. So I can just do that, and now I'm down to 58.1, which rounds down to 58, so I'm no longer encumbered, which is awesome. I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to hit a quick recalc to make sure that that's correct. And I think that's it for level 1. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's one more thing that we need to do, and that's choose traits. So traits are just another extra little bonus handed out at level 1, and it just provides you with some things to flesh out your backstory with, but usually they're used to min-max. And I'm not going to say that you should use traits to min-max, but let's be real here. You're going to use traits to min-max. So I'm going to go over the traits filter here. What's always great is improving saving throws and initiative. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in carefully hidden. It is a human race trait. This is different from your racial traits from your race. These are traits that are independent from each other, and it's hard to separate between race traits and racial traits, but there's a difference. So the first trait is carefully hidden. And I gain a +1 bonus to will saves and a +2 bonus to saving throws versus divination effects. Remember that bonuses of the same type do not stack. The only exceptions are dodge bonuses, racial bonuses, and untyped bonuses, except from the same source. For all three of those things. So if 2 people cast haste on you, you'd normally gain a +1 bonus, +1 dodge bonus to your armor class in each case. But because the 2 abilities don't stack, you'd only get a +1 as opposed to a +2. So because I have a +1 to will saves, I can click the show more fields button in the miscellaneous area here. I'll just put in a 1. Divination spells are always based off will, so I'm going to say +1 to saving throws versus divination effects. And then they include the save notes in the roll, so if I had to make a will save against the divination effect, say someone's trying to scry on me, I'd make the will save, and then be a 12, and because it's a divination effect, it'd be an extra +1, so it'd be 13. So after that, we have our first trait. We need to pick our second trait, and our first trait was a race trait, so our second trait can't also be a race trait. So let's go to combat traits. All right, Rangers are primary combatants. We might as well pick a combat trait. And the one that we always go for, unfortunately, and to no one's surprise, it's going to be reactionary, right? Reactionary is... I clicked something. What did I click? I apologize for that. +2 bonus on initiative checks. Boy, oh boy. boy oh boy, is it gonna be reactionary. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in here, and I get a +2 bonus to initiative checks. So I'm gonna go ahead, and then there's a little trait modifier over here. You can make there's more areas here. So if you have like a level bonus to initiative, you can put it in this miscellaneous column, and it allows for an equation. So if you were a divination wizard, you get a bonus to 1/2 your level on initiative checks, but unfortunately that isn't the case. So I'm going to just unclick that, and then in the trait bonus +2, because it's a trait bonus. This sort of trait bonus does stack with the feat improved initiative, because it's an untyped bonus to initiative, which is quite nice. So I think that's all for level 1. So I got ability scores, class, race, feats, equipment, attacks, and abilities, skills, and etc. So that's the level 1 ranger. So what happens next? The thing that happens next after this is, well, our level up. So after playing around at level 1, you're probably going to, the GM's probably going to say, hey, you guys have earned enough experience to make it to level 2. Go ahead and level your character up. So at level 2, let's see what our ranger is going to get. And our ranger at 2nd level, we're going to get a +1 to BAB, a +1 to fortitude saves. So these aren't cumulative, right? So at level 2, you're not getting an additional +2 to base attack bonus. You're not getting an additional +3 to fort and reflex saves. So under defenses, or actually, sorry, under core, I'm going to level up to 2, right? And then our base attack bonus becomes 2, not 3. Our fortitude save becomes 3. Reflex save becomes 3, and then not 5. In addition to that, we do need to increase our class HP. Normally what people do is do half of the hit die, or sorry, the average roll of the hit die rounded up. So the average roll on a d10 is 5.5, so rounded up would be 6. So we would just put a 6 in here, and then I'm going to pick favorite class bonus HP again. So our total HP is 20, which is not bad. In addition to that, we get more skill ranks per level, so we should have 12 total skills, in addition to our human bonus, so that would bring it all the way up to 14. So I'm just going to take the easy route and just put 1 skill point into each of these, right? The same ones that we put into a level before. Do note that you cannot have more skill ranks than your levels, so you can't have, if you're level 2, you can't have more than 2 skill ranks in any given skill. So in addition to that, we need to see what else we get as a ranger. So the only thing we get at 2nd level is our combat style feat. So our combat style feat, we need to choose a combat style. There are many combat styles, and we need to pick the one. We need to pick the one most appropriate for this build. Of course, this is an archer, so we're going to go with the archery build. If the ranger selects archery, he can choose from the following list whenever he gains a combat style feat. So do note that the ranger combat style manifests itself as bonus feats at 2nd level, 6th level, and then every 4 levels thereafter. So at 2nd level, we're 2nd level now, we gain our first class bonus feat. So we can put the little 1 in there, and then we're up to a total of 3 feats. So because we already have point blank shot, precise shot, the next logical category would be to take rapid shot. And basically what rapid shot does is it allows you to shoot twice on a full round action. So under class features, I'm going to go ahead and then add ranger combat style. And then in the description, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy this. Remember that if you are ever wearing heavy armor, you do lose the benefits of these feats. So do keep that in mind when doing this. It doesn't affect you if you're encumbered or anything like that, but if you are wearing heavy armor, you cannot use these feats, which is important to know. So I don't need this, I don't need this. But going back to the combat styles, the first thing we're going to pick here is archery. So if a ranger selects archery, he can choose from the following list whenever he gains a combat feat, and you can pick between far shot, point blank shot, precise shot, rapid shot. We already picked point blank shot and precise shot, so there's no need for either of those two. So now we're just left with either rapid shot or far shot. And far shot really isn't going to be that critical, simply because you're not going to be in very many combats where you're going to be firing from outside of 100 feet. And 100 feet is already a long distance, so far shot's kind of a moot point and only halves the penalty for shooting outside of your range increment. It doesn't remove it, so far shot isn't really that great. Rapid shot, however, rapid shot's a real breadwinner. What it allows you to do is when you make a full attack action with a ranged weapon, you get an extra shot, which is really, really nice. So starting at level 2, I'm gonna make an extra attack here just to emphasize the difference between the two. So I'm gonna go back to equipment and then go back to the longbow and then make another attack. And then under iterative attacks, I'm gonna include a second attack, and it's not gonna be at any penalty, but both shots are being fired at a -2. So under attack mods, I'm going to have to put in a -2. So with that, we're going to be firing our longbow twice and at a -2 on each one. So that's what I did right here, and you can see that I rolled a 16 and then a 13, and this is the damage it would do. You can pick the same target, choose different targets. Note that there's a +4 modifier to the attack roll, despite the fact that my ranged attack roll is at a +6. Again, from the -2 penalty that we had stated beforehand. So that is what we would get at level 2. Of course, I could continue on this for level 3, level 4, all the way through to level 20, realistically. But for the intents and purposes of this video, this is where I'm going to end it. So basically, this is what we would get at 2nd level. At 3rd level, we'd get some more stuff, including our first favorite terrain. In addition to that, 4th level, we get Hunter's Bond, which manifests itself as an animal companion. In addition to that is when we would get spells as a ranger. And rangers do have quite a few spells, despite the fact that they don't get very many spells per day. But I hope you guys found this video informative and entertaining, and I thank you all for stopping by. This video is going to go up on YouTube, and I'm going to be doing some annotations with it if necessary. Probably cut out some of the parts where I stopped talking to type in stuff in the chat. But I wanted to thank you all for stopping by here. I hope I covered everything. If I didn't, please let me know, and I will see you next time. So peace out, guys. I do plan on making these sorts of things with all the different classes in Pathfinder. I may or may not have the time to do so in the near future due to school and work and other things like that. But I did have fun making this, and I hope you found it enjoyable, entertaining, and informative.